Selena Gomez from Wizards of Waverly Place, and you're watching Disney Channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Retrospect Lounge. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about my favorite network growing up as a kid, the Disney Channel. When I was young, everyone was watching Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. Meanwhile, I was always stuck on Disney Channel, and it was my personal favorite network to watch with my brothers and even my parents from a very young age. Sure, it was a network that really wasn't that Disney related, with very few shows truly based off of Disney movies, as most of their content included casual teen sitcoms and irregular, cringy animated series. There were quite a few classics that I loved and honestly still enjoy from when I was a kid. And when thinking about a lot of these different shows that were on, it got me thinking, what were the absolute best series that were on during my generation? The 2000s. But even better, I got to thinking about what are the absolute worst Disney Channel shows of the 2000s. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get started. Number 10, Cory in the House. This show was a sequel spin-off to a very popular and successful previous Disney Channel series, That's So Raven. But there was something about this spin-off that was just not right. It followed Cory Baxter and his father Victor as they moved to Washington, D.C. when Victor gets a gig as the White House chef. First, that's extremely far-fetched and unbelievable to start out with, but this was a spin-off of a series that involved a girl who could see into the future, so I can let that pass. But what I can't let pass is just how fucking awkward and dry this whole show felt with each episode. Everything felt extremely forced, as if the writers were just trying too hard. The lowest part, though, was the characters, who felt like they weren't even people. It was one of the few Disney Channel shows that made it blatantly obvious that these were actors and not real believable human beings. Jason Dolly's character was funny enough, I guess, but the girl that Cory liked was bland, the Pumpkinhead president was a botch.
Hey, Humphrey, how you doing, boy?
And the weird spy dude. Stickler, was it? Is that what he went by? I don't remember. Well, if my calculations are correct, we should receive a spin-off off of Cory and Raven's mother any day now. Actually, I'd watch that show, to be quite honest. It has some of the previous elements that made That's So Raven what it was, but that still just wasn't enough, as in the end, the show just feels But the later That's So Raven sequel that started a couple years ago, titled Raven's Home, that actually wasn't too bad from what I saw. Number 9, In a Heartbeat. This was one of those strange entries in the Disney Channel series library. First of all, it was a reality show, which was extremely rare for this network. The show followed high school students who worked as part-time EMTs. It could have been a drama series that was awesome to watch while also being educational at the same time, right? But no, it just ended up being a cheesy show with too much of a generic feeling to it. With all the other growing competition in reality television of the time, it didn't pull in the audiences that Disney had anticipated for in any way. Which is probably why it only lasted a whole year before being cancelled, as well as the fact that Disney Channel seldom played with reality TV after its cancellation. Number 8, Brian O'Brien. Where do you kick off the discussion with Brian O'Brien? Oh, this damn show. Better yet, what do you even say about this show in the first place? And I use the term show very loosely, as it's more of a little series that would play in between actual programming between the years of 2008 to 2009. Yeah, about a year. This series starred Brian Stepanek, who played Arwen in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And in this series, his character would basically, well, let me just read you the plot synopsis. Follow the hilarious misadventures of Brian O'Brien, a clever, problem-solving Good Samaritan who somehow manages to turn everyday tasks into major comedy mishaps. Watch and laugh as Brian physically gets himself into, then miraculously out of, seemingly impossible situations that go unnoticed by the world around him. Each short episode is silent yet full of cleverly designed music and sound effects that perfectly, and that's the key word, perfectly, complement Brian's brilliant physical comedy timing. Comedic timing, sorry. This show is laugh out loud funny. Honestly, it just kind of sounds like Disney's rip-off version of Mr. Bean. This guy. Number 7, Dave the Barbarian. Now this show was an absolute train wreck. As a young kid, I would wake up filled with excitement. I would run downstairs to the TV as early as 5 in the morning. I'd be ready to watch my morning cartoons. I'd grab the remote, flip on the Disney Channel, only to find Dave the fucking Barbarian. I still don't know what Dave the Barbarian was to this day, and for that reason, I really don't have a whole lot to say about it, except it was way too quirky and way too silly for its own good, which resulted in it always just seeming weird, even for a kid's show. But it's all good, because rightfully deserved, it only lasted one season with a whole 21 episodes.
Good riddance.
Although I will say, the theme song was pretty lit. But honestly, I still do have to wonder how that theme song really made it onto the Disney Channel soundtrack. I think it was like Disney Channel playlist hits, something like that. Back in 2006, was it? I mean, it's a good song, but that show of all shows making it onto the Disney Channel official soundtrack? I'll be honest. Odd choice. Odd choice. Odd choice. Number 6, The Buzz on Maggie. This show was centered around a middle school-aged Fly and her adventures as she's a rock star wannabe and not-so-girly girl trying to fit in throughout her hometown and, of course, at school. It may have been silly and had wacky characters and wacky plot lines, but that simply was not enough to strike with the show's target audience, or really anyone for that matter. I remember when I was a young kid, this was another one of those shows where when I saw that it was on and I'd be flipping through the channels and that's what was on Disney Channel, I would honestly just have this reaction like, oh good, now I gotta wait for this shit to be over so I can watch what I actually want to watch. It was that kind of thing. And this was a similar trend among other Disney Channel viewers, as the show really just irritated kids, leading to its cancellation after only one season as well. Number 5, Totally in Tune. Another one of Disney's failed attempts to enter the reality TV world, this series followed the adventures of 8 students at Alexander Hamilton High School Academy of Music in Los Angeles, California. Now that's a mouthful. Anyway, the overall premise of the series was at least slightly interesting and something that wasn't too familiar on TV already. In fact, not even just the premise alone, the actual show itself was decent. But that's the biggest problem. It was only decent. And the characters couldn't make up for that. They were lacking, falling flat, and seeming utterly annoying for the most part. One good thing that can be said about this show, though, is that it did have heart. That does count for a lot, but apparently not enough, as Totally in Tune was cancelled after only 3 months. It was anything but a hit to audiences, and after only 10 episodes, the show was cancelled and faded into obscurity. Number 4, Shake It Up. Okay, look, I know that the show didn't even begin until 2010, but it just barely made my cutoff, and I honestly need to talk about it because it's so fucking bad. Plus, there were very few genuinely bad Disney Channel shows in the 2000s, so I'm gonna let myself break the rules a little bit here. Shake It Up is honestly the worst live-action Disney series that I have ever witnessed. It may have launched the careers of Bella Thorne, yeah, who gives a shit about that one, but on the other hand, Zendaya. As for the show itself though, it sucks. And you're stupid for liking it. No, but in all seriousness, it honestly just had a plot that consisted of 2 girls who are trying to become professional dancers, and they do this by starting out as backups for a popular show. Yeah, a pretty average plot at best. The series involved a lot of tense moments between characters on the show who were actors that secretly hated each other. That's healthy enough. But even better was the amount of uneasy and uncomfortable passive aggressiveness between one another that came off so unbelievable. This was seriously due to the fact that less than heavenly performances were given from the cast. Number 3, Shorty McShort Shorts. This is another entry on the list that isn't even much of a series, as it is simply 5-minute cartoon shorts. Yet still, it failed to survive on the network. These cartoons were quick and brief. But even so, it still was doomed for cancellation from the beginning. It never managed to attract audiences, and it just came off as something that was a chore to watch in between normal Disney Channel programming. And this is saying a lot, since once again, they were just anthology cartoons on a children's network. Number 2, The Replacements. Oh man, I remember this one alright.
Hello, Blinko.
Sir, we need a replace and fast.
Actually, I don't really, because I feel that I somehow luckily managed to block out most memories and visuals of this show. But from what I do remember, it was just so cheesy, and it was just another one of those animated Disney shows that I was never really impressed by. The plotlines were weak, the characters were boring, and the synopsis itself didn't even seem real. It was about two children who replaced adults with other adults that they find better. Does that make sense? No? Well, there you go, because that's the best way I can even explain this hot steaming pile of garbage. Even now, I tried to give it a chance to review it. I really tried, but nothing about it is watchable. Especially the parents. When watching this again, I noticed that they just come off so fake. The dad is a complete joke, and the mom, she's just too damn annoying. And number one, drumroll please, even though this really shouldn't come off as any bit of a surprise. Number one, Fishhooks. Again, I know that this is another show that didn't even start until 2010, but come on. This may just be the worst Disney Channel show of all time overall, so I think it's fair game. Fishhooks followed a group of high school-aged fish who live in a real-life pet store. This isn't too far-fetched or beyond the realm of usual animated series that Disney would throw out there. I mean, Disney Animation straight up mastered the art of bringing animals to life. But this show was anything but good and never really gained a fan following or a true audience. This show came out towards the end of the era where I still watched Disney Channel shows, but I still ended up catching this series as it first began, and I was never big on it. At all. This was an example of Disney trying too hard to captivate the tween audiences that other networks were bringing in at the time. The humor tried way too hard, and that showed.
Name one thing you've done for me that wasn't sweet. Like, ever. Oh, you are so gonna get it!
Now I know most people are going to be thinking after watching this video, cool, there's some of the worst shows of the 2000s, but what about the good ones? What about the best ones? The ones that we actually like? The nostalgic memories of the network that many of us still carry into their 20s, like myself. Trust me, the best Disney shows of my generation is the stuff that I want to talk about. So now that we've gotten the worst out of the way, do you want to hear what the top 10 best Disney Channel shows of the 2000s are? Next episode. Have a question, comment, or concern? Or maybe you just want to know more about upcoming videos? Check me out and follow me on Twitter for exclusive updates and more.